Hello and welcome to Hammer Time, a Hammer horror podcast, part of the Evolution of Horror Network. I'm Becky Darke, a film critic and Hammer fang girl, and I'm joined by my co-host, human encyclopedia of film and TV, and Hammer super fang, Kevin Lyons.
Hello, fangirl.
I remembered.
You did.
I was like, it's a vampire film. I need to update Kevin's bio.
Seriously, if we don't do it now, then when?
Right.
Basically, we're back in familiar territory this week. So,
in this podcast, Kevin and I are watching and discussing every horror film in Hammer's back catalogue. And this week, Christopher Lee is back in his cape and fangs as he returns as Dracula, Prince of Darkness, from 1966.
For 10 years, his mortal remains were cherished by his faithful servant, awaiting the opportunity and a victim to provide the life force for the reincarnation of Dracula.
Our Hammer Time discussions are all spoilerific, and we go into plot details and chat about the endings of the films. So if you'd like to watch Dracula, Prince of Darkness before you listen to the episode, it's available on VOD, and it's also part of the great big Studio Canal Hammer Collection box set, which I think... Looking ahead, Kev, to our films that are coming up over the next few weeks, this box set has got us covered. I assume you've got this, have you?
Do you think I might have? Is that possible? I don't know. Let me think about that. Yeah. Yes, I have. And yes, it is pretty much covering us quite nicely for the next few weeks, if not months, in fact. Yes.
Yeah. So all of those poor people out there who our podcast has been costing a fortune as you're buying all of the physical media to keep up with our episodes. If you've got the box set, which I think has got like 21 films on it in total.
Yes. Yeah. Huge.
This'll, one solid investment and it will have you covered for a little while.
I reiterate what we said in the postbag episode. I'm so sorry to your bank account.
I
really am. It's like, I'm not really, because I think, you're buying some incredible films that you're going to watch over and over again, and you're going to love and all the rest of it. But yeah, I feel bad that people are spending this much money. And I know what it's like. Once you get going, you can't just buy the one. You've got to have everything.
Boy, oh boy, do we know what it's like. Yeah.
Oh, don't we just? Yes.
So Drac is back.
He is.
It's been a while since we've had a vampire film for our Hammer horrors, and it's been even longer since we had a Dracula film.
Yeah.
So how did this one come about, Kev? And why did it take 8 years? Because obviously Dracula, Lee and Cushing was 58 and we're now in 66.
Yep.
So this has taken 8 years for kind of the first proper Dracula sequel to come about. So why now?
Well, several reasons. One of the reasons was that Christopher Lee made himself available again. He kind of had a notoriously prickly relationship with Dracula. I think he had one eye on what happened to poor old Bela Lugosi.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
He made one Dracula film, two if we count the Abbott and Costello film, but I tend to try not to count Abbott and Costello films. But he played Dracula twice, and that's all anybody ever talks about. Mm-hmm. And I think Christopher Lee was very reluctant to go down that typecasting route. He wanted to be seen, quite rightly, as an actor with more range than simply playing a vampire.
Sure.
And so he kind of rebuffed all efforts to get him back. They tried to make a sequel twice rather, in those 8 years. They'd done Dracula 2, which became The Brides of Dracula.
Thank God, because Dracula 2 is a terrible title.
It's awful, isn't it? It's just terrible. Quatermass 2, we can understand, because as I said in the episode, that refers to the spaceship as well as the film. Yeah, but Dracula 2, just, no. Could have been worse. They had planned to make a Dracula 3. But that became The Kiss of the Vampire.
Right.
Which is an altogether better title.
Yes.
So it's not for the want of trying. They had tried to get Christopher Lee to come back, but he just seemed very reluctant. And now Hammer were about to embark on this little programme that they dreamt of. of a bit of cost cutting and a bit of profit maximisation. They had seen, particularly in the States, that a lot of their films ended up on the bottom end of a double bill.
Right.
Which is fine. Got bums on seats, got eyes on screens. Lovely. The problem is that the film at the bottom of the bill, it didn't get much money. The lion's share of the box office went to the A film.
I've always wondered about this.
Yeah. And the B film got a kind of, thanks for being here. Here's your token payment sort of deal. And Hammer were thinking, well, this isn't right. We should be having more respect than that. And so they hit on this idea. They're going to make 4 films back to back using 2 lots of sets and then crossing these films over into ready-made double bills where they would pocket everything. So they get the A film and the B film.
It's a good idea.
Very good idea. I mean, I've said right from the beginning, haven't I? These were canny business people.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing. And so they came up with this idea. Let's make these 4 films. We're going to make Dracula, Prince of Darkness, because Lee was, saying, OK, I'll do it. And Rasputin, the Mad Monk, they were going to be shot on 1 lot of sets. And on another lot of sets, they were going to make The Reptile and The Plague of the Zombies.
Right.
And then they were going to cross them over. So Dracula, Prince of Darkness goes out with The Plague of the Zombies and Rasputin goes out with The Reptile.
Amazing.
So it's just this ready-made double bill, which just, coined them a little more profit. And who can blame them? Also saved them some money because we've seen before that they reuse sets and props and costumes and so on. But this
is what I was about to say. Like, if it feels like such a smart move anyway.
Yes.
But then if you think about it in terms of Hammer films, it strikes me that there is no better or no kind of company that is better set up to be doing this kind of tactic, right, of filmmaking, because they've basically sort of cornered the market really on this approach.
Of course, yeah. And 7 years in, since Curse of Frankenstein, they've got a whole load of props and they can build these sets in their sleep, basically. They didn't, they were still, going for it. There's a certain cheapness setting in, I think, I can detect in this one. But, it still looks pretty magnificent, to be honest. So they were still doing it as well as they possibly could. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Hammer were totally set up to do this. And they made it work.
Let's take a look at the plot of Dracula, Prince of Darkness. I have not taken this from Letterboxd because the one on Letterboxd literally doesn't make sense. I don't know who's written it, where it's been pulled from. So this is
one of those late night things, isn't it? Where they've seen it on TV late at night. They're slightly pissed or they're very, very tired. They've typed it up on, I think it's TMDB, the movie database where they pull their information from. And they've just written some gibberish on there and thought, hey, that's really good, isn't it? And then never gone
hilarious.
Back to it.
I'm sure I've done one in the past where I didn't really read it like sort of word for word, copied and pasted it in, and then got about halfway through. I was like, hold on a minute.
I can't remember what it was, but there was one where I could hear you losing the will to live halfway through reading it. I was like, oh.
This doesn't bear a lot of resemblance to the film I've watched, actually. So I've been a bit more, I've done a bit more scrutiny, a bit more due diligence on this one.
Excellent.
So hopefully this is representative of the film we're about to talk about. The film follows 4 English travellers who ignore repeated warnings to avoid the remote region of Carlsbad. After their coachman abandons them at dusk, they take refuge in a seemingly empty castle where a servant named Clove offers unexpected hospitality. During the night, Clove murders one of the men and uses his blood to resurrect Count Dracula, who has been dead for 10 years. As Dracula rises again, the remaining travellers must fight for survival, seeking help from Father Sandor to stop the vampire's renewed reign of terror.
That pretty well sums it up, I think.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad at all, that one. That's good. 10 out of 10, no notes.
Lovely. Good. Right, let's talk about what we think of this one. I had heard mixed things going in. So I didn't really know what to expect. I'd heard sort of from some camps that it was a bit ponderous. I'd heard from other camps that it was a real kind of return to, the Gothic bangers, really, that we've talked about when we've spoken of the vampire films before. So I went in with relatively kind of mid expectations, not knowing which way I was going to lean by the end of it. I enjoyed it largely. I think there's a lot to like about it. And when we come on to talk about our kind of favourite moments right at the end of the film, I'm definitely going to be calling out things, kind of moments from the script. I think the screenplay is really good. There's some nice sort of character moments. And also, there's a lot of blood in this one.
There's a hell of a lot of blood, yes.
If you are a horror fan, I mean, I was... Oh, yeah, you can almost sort of bathe in the blood of this one, which is fantastic.
Can. Yes.
But I must say, there are some points where I've slightly come into this chat where I'm like, I've got some questions.
Oh, yes. Between you and me, because no one else is listening, are you? No? Good. Okay, fine.
Safe space.
I've been kind of dreading this episode.
Oh, no.
Because several years ago, I wrote a review of this for my website. And I wasn't 100% complimentary about it. And I found out very quickly to my cost that this film is much beloved by a large proportion of Hammer fandom. And they weren't happy with me. And I want to make it very clear up front, all right? This is just me sort of covering my arse here, all right? So bear with me. I do not hate this film. A lot of people seem to think I hate this film. I don't hate it. I just don't think it's as good as Dracula or Brides of Dracula.
Well, no, it's not as good as Dracula or Brides of Dracula.
It's not. Well, that's both of us doomed now. We're both going to be Wicker Men by the end of the day. There you go. Come back.
I'm sorry.
That's it. We're all the goodwill we've built up over these 27 weeks or whatever. That's it. We've blown it now. But it is a much loved film, and I can understand why people love it. I really can. I do get why they love it, but it doesn't warm the cockles of my heart the way that the first two Dracula films did. Even the one without Dracula in it, I think I like better. If I was going to watch a Dracula film tonight and it wasn't for doing something like this, I watched Prince of Darkness last night. I don't think I would choose Prince of Darkness.
No.
I would choose some of the sillier later ones, because they're silly, if that makes sense. But I have to emphasize, I don't hate the film. All right, guys, I don't hate it. I still think it's a very good film. I just don't think it's the be-all and end-all of Hammer Gothic horror.
No.
Sorry, chaps. Sorry.
I agree with everything you've just said. So again, anybody who's taking umbrage with Kevin's opinion on Dracula, Prince of Darkness, I'm afraid it sounds like I share it. So maybe go away and do something else and come back next episode if you don't want to get made angry.
Come back next week. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've got to get through Becky to get to me now, so I feel properly protected. That's really good. Quite right.
Now, we begin the film in a way that I quite like, and we'll come on to talk about this, but you get this from time to time with horror films, especially, I think, if a sequel has been made a few years advanced from when the original or the last film in a franchise, etc., has been made. Because we begin the film straight up with a flashback to the ending of Dracula 1958. Now, when we talked about that film on our Dracula episode, we were hugely complimentary about that final kind of fight sequence between Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, obviously Dracula and Van Helsing. It includes all of those amazing effects of Dracula's body kind of crumbling to dust, and you sort of see his leg, and then you see his hand and his rings left behind, and then his face goes. Got lots of Christopher Lee kind of screaming in agony. Obviously, you've got those incredible action moments of Peter Cushing jumping up and grabbing the curtains to bring the sunlight in. You've got that iconic moment of him making the crucifix out of the two candlesticks. I mean, this stuff is like chef's kiss.
Oh yeah,
gold-plated brilliance from Hammer.
It's perfection, isn't it? It is perfection. Yeah, it
really is. And so, in some ways, with this, with echoing it again at the beginning of this sort of first proper Dracula sequel where Christopher Lee returns. Firstly, we don't get Peter Cushing back.
Right, yeah.
And because that sequence is so good, it's kind of reminding you up front how incredible that original film is, which can be a bit of a double-edged sword, because then if the rest of the film doesn't quite live up to it, you've already been reminded of kind of how good it was before. Does that make sense?
I think you've been hacking my computer, because that's almost word for word what I've got in my notes here. Almost word for word. Yeah, I think it is. I remember reading reviews of Dario Argento's Suspiria saying that the film never lived up to the first 20 minutes.
Interesting.
That incredible opening sequence with the,
oh my God,
plate glass falling and all the rest of it. It never lived up to. I'm not sure that's true, but I that stuck in my mind. I kind of get the same sort of feeling with this. We get this incredible recap of what went before, and what follows, particularly for the first half of the film, really doesn't live up to what we saw at that beginning part. There's also a very strange sort of billowing smoke effect.
Yeah.
And that was simply because they decided to shoot this one in full proper widescreen, 2:3:5:1 widescreen, whereas Dracula wasn't. So they had to sort of put something around it like a frame so it wasn't sitting.
That's actually really funny.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a kind of wibbly wobbly, timey wimey kind of, look, this is a flashback, everybody. But no, it was much more practical than that.
Practical. It was simply that, the original image would have just sat there in the middle of the screen and would have looked very odd. So they put something
brilliant.
around it.
That's very inventive, actually.
Very inventive, but yeah, I quite agree with you. I don't think it was a good idea to recap it in that way. In some ways, I kind of wish they'd been a bit braver and just sort of said, well, okay, we're just going to restart. You already know who Dracula is. You saw the film. You saw the film. Everybody saw the film. We just have him dead in his castle. We don't need all that stuff at the beginning, because we're just going to kind of a reboot, as it were, of the series. And I think it would have worked just as well without that.
I do. And in some ways, and I know, again, not to crap all over this film up front, because I did enjoy it, but I do think you're slightly setting yourself up for a fall, even if then the film that follows up is better, because like we say, that is such a flawless sequence. If I was going to do it, I'd have maybe I don't know, I'd have cut some of the better bits out of it. I'd have cut, the jump and all of that kind of thing, and maybe just had a slightly shorter clip. But they've included all the good stuff.
That's right.
You don't really get any of that action and stuff later on.
Well, they've included the best bit, of course, which was Peter Cushing, who we sorely missed here. Although we're going to talk about Andrew Keir as Father Shandor, and I think he's great, to be honest.
He is great.
It would have been so much nicer if Peter Cushing was on board. But then, we have to judge a film on what it is, not on what it could have been.
Of course, we do. But I would also, just as a final point on this, I think they make that slightly harder for us by putting the ending of the previous film right at the beginning.
Exactly, spot on, perfectly said. Yeah, exactly.
But as we say, Christopher Lee is back as Count Dracula. Great.
Yep.
Good. Happy with that. Lovely to have him back.
Fantastic.
But, and I think this is what you were potentially hinting at just now, Kev, in the first half, really, of the film that immediately follows that incredible opening / ending sequence, is that we don't actually see him until about 45 minutes into the film. And famously, he doesn't speak any lines of dialogue in the film.
This is true.
And so I'm very much like, Count Dracula, Christopher Lee, great. We only get him for about 3 scenes, and whenever he's on screen, he doesn't say anything. Not great. So, what's the story behind this?
Well, I have to say up front here that I kind of like the Kents. The human characters. I kind of like them. I think they're sort of good company in a sort of way. There's some very witty dialogue going on there.
Oh, there is. They're great. They're fun.
But I have paid to see a film called Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and I want my Prince of Darkness, please.
Thank you.
To wait 45 minutes, I do feel a bit sort of, oh, come on, get on with it. Where is he? I want him back.
Yeah.
As for the no speaking, well, there's a story in that. If we believe Christopher Lee, and we really shouldn't, he refused to say any of the dialogue that Jimmy Sangster had written for him. I quote, "I didn't speak in that picture. The reason was very simple. I read the script and I saw the dialogue. I said to Hammer, if you think I'm going to say any of these lines, you're very much mistaken." However, in his book Inside Hammer, Jimmy Sangster refutes that completely. And he says that vampires don't chat. So I didn't write him any dialogue. Christopher Lee has claimed that he refused to speak the lines he was given, so you can take your pick as to why Christopher Lee didn't have any dialogue in the picture, or you can take my word for it. I didn't write any. And that's actually borne out by a shooting script that's dated the 4th of March 1965, so very, very early on, probably before Christopher Lee came on board. Right. There's no dialogue for Dracula in that either.
Oh, my God. Christopher Lee!
It was never intended.
Fibber!
Yes. Well, I think possibly he was getting a bit confused because apparently he rewrote some scenes in later films. I can't remember which one is it. It's a Dracula AD 1972 where he had his speech, "I am the apocalypse." And it's all very over the top and all the rest of it. And he demanded that be cut out. And I wonder over time...
Oh, he's just got them mixed up.
All our memories do this. I mean, the amount of times in my life I've muddled up one film for another, because... You just do. That's how memory works.
I've literally done it within the last couple of weeks. On Fresh Blood, on our last episode of Fresh Blood, or maybe the one before, we were talking about the film Fade to Black from 1980.
Yeah.
And Brad was chatting about it and I was like, my God, I love that film so much. And it was in the... physical media section of the show.
Yeah.
And there was this new beautiful release of it, I think from 88 Films. And I was like, oh my God, I love that film. I'm going to pick that up. And then the other day I thought, I fancy a bit of Fade to Black. I'm going to stick that on. I haven't watched my new disc yet. Stuck it on. I was like, I have never seen this film in my life. I don't know what I thought it was.
I did it in connection with this film in a way, if you remember. I thought that prologue, that repeated prologue was at the start of Brides of Dracula.
Oh my God, yes, that's right.
Clearly it isn't. So, it's easily done. And when you made as many films as Christopher Lee made.
Wow.
And, I think we have this impression, I'm sure I've spoken about this before, that filmmakers are like us. They're incredibly nerdy and they're taking notes. They're not. It's a day in the office for most of these people. So it's like, one Dracula film after another. He's probably, he's not going to be paying that much attention, I wouldn't have thought, to what was what. So I don't think he was deliberately lying. I think he was just a bit confused.
Fine.
To be honest.
That makes a lot of sense. That does make a lot of sense. And so what do you think of it though, Kev? Like, Jimmy Sangster is saying vampires don't chat.
Yeah.
But when we talk about Dracula 1958, I remember, and not just us, I think that I Am Dracula, Welcome to My House, is one of the most kind of iconic lines in any vampire film. And so then he was a bit more chatty. Now we've decided that he doesn't have, he's not speaking. So where do you kind of sit between those two things? Would you have liked him to have spoken a bit more, or do you kind of buy into this idea that he's a kind of a silent menace?
Well, first of all, we have to remember that after that fantastic opening dialogue scene, the getting to know you scene in Dracula, he doesn't speak again anyway.
Oh, well, there you go.
So, he was fairly silent in the first film. Yes, it robs us of Christopher Lee's extraordinary voice. I mean, he had many characteristics, Christopher Lee, and one of his best was his voice. I love that voice. I watched The Wicker Man just last week, and I was just sitting there thinking, honestly, I could have sat and listened to Lord Summerisle speaking for 5 hours. Just that voice. Even when he was talking nonsense about apples and sacrifices and all the rest of it. I was absolutely rapt. I was thinking, yes, go for it, Lord, go for it. That's brilliant. That's marvellous. I totally get because of that voice, that commanding voice. So I do miss that. But that said, I kind of agree with Sangster in a way. I like my monster to be the strong, silent type. I think Freddy Krueger was at his best in the first Nightmare on Elm Street film, when he didn't say quite so much. When he's running off 10 to the dozen in the later films, I'm just thinking, just shut up and kill someone. Don't keep giving crap one-liners. Just murder someone. That's what we're here for. In Hellraiser, Pinhead is great in the first one. He gets some dialogue. but it's so beautifully written.
Oh my God. I mean, literally everything that comes out of his mouth, which isn't a lot, because I think the Cenobites are only on screen for about 8 minutes of that total runtime.
Right. Exactly.
But everything that comes out of his mouth is the most like quotable, memeable, iconic line of horror dialogue of all time.
Please, no tears. Such a waste of good suffering. I mean, it's beautiful. And like you say, they're not on screen that much. He hardly actually says anything at all. And in later films, in the sequels, he's a right chatterbox. And I just think, you're not as scary when you're talking so much. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, I like, and what would Dracula have to say to us plebs anyway? You know, we don't really know how old he is here. They said in the prologue that he was 100 at the time of the first film, but he could have been around a lot longer than that. He's seen a lot. He's done a lot. And he's an aristocrat. He's not going to hang out with peasants like me and have a chat with me. He's just going to move in, kill, and move on again. You know, I can't imagine him sitting down over a dinner table and having a chat. I know he does in the book, but I think I prefer the silent Dracula, to be honest.
I get it. And it reminds me a little bit of the chat we had about The Nanny when right at the end, Joey goes into his mum in the hospital, and you made that incredible point that all of a sudden he's back to being a little boy and you can't shut him up, right? So he's just
that's right.
And I think you're right what you said at the time, that the credits almost sort of start rolling and cut him off because he's still chatting to his mum. And what I do like about this is you've got, exactly as you're saying, Dracula, the kind of ancient who is above all of this. And, you know, he's very single-minded. He's just woken up. His brain hasn't quite kicked in yet.
He's probably quite hungry as well, I should imagine.
Exactly. So he's like, you know, food, new bride, fantastic. And then you get Barbara Shelley, who is the kind of the brand new, the sort of the almost childlike of the vampires, because she's just been sired. And she's the one that kind of does all the, oh, hello, brother Charles, allow me to kiss you. And then, you know, comes in to kind of bite his neck and stuff. So I quite like that. Like, to me, there is something about, the much more kind of old and slightly world-weary Dracula.
That's right.
And then this chatty sort of almost toddler of the vampires, because she's just woken up. You know, she's just been born.
I did involuntarily gasp there when you said the words Barbara Shelley. We're going to come on to her because, oh my God, is she good in this film or what?
Kevin Lyons, she is remarkable. I can't, like, my obsession with Barbara Shelley is through the roof at the moment. I cannot get enough of her.
I totally get it. I think I mentioned in another episode, I met her once at the launch of Jonathan Rigby's English Gothic, the second edition, I think. And honestly, just to be in her presence, she was lovely. She was so charming and so friendly, but there was this kind of regality about her. You knew you were in the presence of acting great. Here,
honestly, you know. she is genuinely great. And so she plays Helen Kent, and again, we'll come on to talk about, you know, the rest of the characters and stuff in a minute. But she plays Helen Kent, who is this she's the slightly older of the two kind of main women in the film. She's this very sort of anxious and cautious character.
She's very repressed, I think. That's the thing. Yeah. She's very icy and repressed when we first meet her. She's kind of almost the picture perfect Victorian/Edwardian lady.
You very much get this feeling that she's been sort of dragged off on this adventure with her family, very much against her will. And I was watching it, and I think because she's that little bit older as an actress at this point, we haven't seen her for a couple of films, and because, as you say, she's got that sort of like repression to her character, that kind of that caution. I was watching her and I was thinking, cool, this actress is good. And then when she turned into a vampire, I was like, oh shit, it's Barbara Shelley.
She'd hidden herself so well at the beginning. Sort of like buried herself in this character, and then suddenly she's freed by Dracula. I think it's quite amusing that when we first meet her, she's not at all impressed by Charles Kent. No. As having a good time and drinking a yard of ale. And she's very sort of, oh, really, must he? You know, she's so repressed. And then Dracula comes along and frees this this sex monster within her. You know, she lets her hair down, so you've got that gorgeous flowing mane of bright red hair.
That's right.
And she kind of loses all of her clothes pretty much. She's down to her sort of, underclothing.
Well, I mean, one of the classic Hammer vampire, sort of Hammer glamour diaphanous 90s, isn't
That's
she?
it, yeah. I mean, which, she would, I could imagine that the original Helen would probably have got changed well out of sight, behind a blind, and would have been wearing about 5 layers going to bed, because she was so repressed. But now, oh no, she's had the bite and she is as sexy as she gets. I have to say, by far the best thing about this film is Barbara Shelley. But then that's probably true of most of the films that Barbara Shelley's in, to be perfectly honest.
That's true. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's not really a comment on the film, is it?
It's not
a comment
at all,
on Barbara Shelley.
She is amazing in this, isn't she? I love the journey she goes on. You've already mentioned this, sort of going from repressed to this sort of sexually free and abandoned young undead woman. And then she goes positively feral when they catch her and they kill her.
Oh, my goodness.
And how many men does it take to dispose of this one little girl?
Like 4
6
or
of them.
5?
6 of them. There's 6 of them in that room, 5 of them holding her down. And, because she is just completely feral. That's a hell of a performance.
It's an incredible performance.
For all my misgivings about this film, and there are several, I think that's my favourite performance in any of the films that we've seen so far. Even better than Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, because I think it's so unexpected and it's so shocking in a way.
It is, because, she doesn't strike me as a particularly, I don't know, kind of strong or kind of I don't know, like she doesn't look like a kind of large woman. Like, she's relatively diminutive, I think. I mean, as far as you can tell through your screen, But that, you're absolutely right. When the monks are kind of holding her, they've got like one on each side have got her arms. And those actors who are playing those monks are genuinely struggling to contain her. Like Barbara Shelley's physical performance, aside from anything else in this film, is incredible.
It's amazing. All that snarling and snapping at them, trying to bite them and trying to, just hissing and snarling. And just like, she's so angry in that scene. It's absolutely bloody brilliant. It really is. And she was so like modest about it.
She's like a cat you're trying to get into one of those carry cases to take into the vet.
That's exactly what it is. She's feral and feline all in one. And when I met her that time, I did actually say that this was one of my favourite moments in her career. I was raving about how good it was, and she was so modest. She said, "Oh, that's very kind of you, thank you." Aww. And it's like, Barbara, honestly, you were bloody magnificent in that one scene. I could watch over and over and over again. She's so good in it, and I just love the fact that it takes so many men to stop her.
Yeah, exactly.
This force of nature has been unleashed on Victorian/Edwardian Europe, and they can't cope with it. It takes them to come out of a smaller army just to stop this one, like you say, very diminutive young woman. And wow, that is so impressive. It really is.
It is. It's amazing.
Slightly less impressive is the fact that she struggles with the fangs. Did you notice that?
Right. Okay. Okay, I'm really glad you brought this up, because
you don't need Charles. She gets a bit of a lisp when she's trying to talk through she can't quite get her words out because she's got this thing in her mouth. Bless her.
Couldn't they have given him a name like Paul or something so it didn't have so many S's in it?
S's in it.
But you say that about Barbara Shelley, but I also thought that Christopher Lee's fangs are weird in this. I don't think I actually see him open his mouth at any point. It looks like he's having to bite them between his teeth to keep them in his mouth.
Yeah. I hadn't noticed that, I must admit. It's okay, so you've given me another reason to go back to it one day, just to look for that.
Have a look. Next time you do watch it, Kev, just have a look, because, and again, Hammer time at, what's our email address? Hammer at evolutionofhorror.com. Write in and tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you see Dracula actually open his mouth with the fangs in. He opens his lips so you can see him.
Right.
But I'm sure he just has them clamped between his teeth the whole time.
That's a really good observation. I'd never noticed that. I shall look out for it next time I watch it.
Which, if it is true, it definitely slightly takes away from Dracula's menace a bit, because it's like
he's grinding his teeth.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see. Write in if I'm wrong. I'll be happily discredited of my observation.
But I think that also speaks a little bit to some of the lack of resources, perhaps.
Right.
Noticeable.
You mentioned this cheapness.
Yeah,
Kev.
there's a bit of cheapness. We'll talk about the ending later on, but there is actually a rather large stick which is visible in shot, holding up the ice floe that Dracula slides off. And that's not something I would have expected Hammer to have left in an earlier film.
Yeah.
And there are sort of continuity glitches here and there.
Do you know what? I had this in my notes, so let's do it now. Let's have a quick chat about this, as you've sort of so naturally brought us onto it. I've seen the film, as I said earlier, that it's been kind of criticised for being a bit dull by some people, not the fans, obviously, but by some people.
Sure.
And there's definitely some kind of extraneous stuff. The bit that really jumped out to me is when Diana, the younger woman of the party, played by Susan Farmer, she says to her husband, Charles, played by Francis Matthews, I want to leave. I want to get out of here, because the other two, Helen and Alan, have disappeared. And she says, I'm really frightened. I want to leave. And he says, okay, yeah, you're right. Let's get out of here. So they steal away. They go back to a little cabin that they sort of spotted earlier. Mm-hmm. He drops her off and says, I'm going back to the castle. And she's like, oh, no, please don't. And he's like, well, I am, so stay put. He goes back to the castle. Then Clove, the servant, comes back down, gets her, and brings her back to the castle. So they're both just at the castle again. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Are we just filling 5 minutes? Because there was literally no point in that entire sequence.
No.
They've gone out of the castle, and now they're just back at the castle together.
Yeah, I mean, there are little moments like that when I do think maybe Jimmy Sangster's heart wasn't in this so much.
This is sort of where I'm coming with it, with my point, because as well, you know, you've mentioned the stick, and there are some other odd little gaffes, for want of a better word. Some continuity errors. Diana, at one point, she's sort of holding her crucifix up to Dracula.
Yeah.
And then the shot changes to a different angle, and it's back down at her neck, and then she pulls it up again with her hand. I was like, that was weird.
Yeah.
There's also a really weird bit with Helen where she finds her husband, Alan, who is just, my God, he's just suffered the most horrific death. This is where all the blood comes in.
Yeah.
And I mean, I assume Barbara Shelley's got a pretty decent scream on her, but the scream is really odd and is definitely dubbed.
It is, isn't it? Very noticeably, yeah.
Noticeably dubbed. And so my question, Kev, really, sort of with all of these little points, is I was going to ask if Terence Fisher was a little weary by this point. Was he sort of missing these little bits, or maybe just sort of thinking, oh, it doesn't really matter? Or was it, you know, were bits like the kind of coming down to the cabin and then going back up to the castle, like, was that a Jimmy Sangster thing? Like, what's your opinion about kind of why these things are slightly slipping through the cracks in this film?
I don't think Fisher was particularly disillusioned. I think he was too professional a director to do that. He'd been away from Hammer for a little bit, making films for other companies, and some of those were dirt cheap, and he still brought his A game to them. I think there are some structural issues with the script. That's certainly true. It pains me to say it, because you know as well as anybody at this stage how much I adore Jimmy Sangster.
Yeah.
How much I think, you know, that man is a bloody genius.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely incredible. But I think a lot of the problems with the film do stem from his script. I think it's kind of, it's a weird shape, the script, that we've got this 45 minutes where Dracula isn't around.
Yeah.
And I would like for him to have been back a lot quicker. I don't want him, necessarily back in the opening scene. That's fine. We'd have a little bit of suspense, but 45 minutes, that's half the film gone.
I felt it, I felt the 45 minutes without
definitely.
him.
And I just not sure how keen Sangster was to be back making these Gothics. He hadn't written one since The Brides of Dracula.
Right.
He'd been writing the psychological horror films.
Well, and one of the main reasons for that we know and we've discussed at length is that he kind of thought that the Gothics had slightly run their course and Hammer should be moving in a different direction.
Indeed. And in fact, on this, you'll notice you won't see Jimmy Sangster's name on the credits.
Right.
The screenplay is by John Sansom, which is one of his pseudonyms.
Right.
He'd used it first in 1963 on an Edgar Wallace mystery called To Have and to Hold, and also on a novelisation of The Man Who Could Cheat Death. He wrote a novelisation and used the name there. So it's not like he was particularly saying, yes, I'm back. Here I am back in the Gothics. He's saying, well, here's John Sansom having a go at it now.
Interesting.
I think if you're a fan of Jimmy Sangster, and I hope most of you are after all this time listening to us bang on about him, then I think you'll recognise his writing style. When he's good in this, he is terrific. Some really funny stuff. Yep. There's some fantastic dialogue in it. But I think structurally, it's a problem for me, I think. There's not a lot here that we hadn't seen before as well, which doesn't help. There's kind of a tiredness to the story.
Yeah.
We're even going to guess a scene where Dracula bursts into a room and hisses at the vampire bride who's trying to bite someone he's got his eye on.
And then throws her to the floor.
And almost immediately, Charles comes in and makes a makeshift crucifix.
Yeah.
To hold him at bay. And it's like, okay, so it worked once, but you don't really know. I mean, 8 years ago, we still remember seeing that, particularly as you showed us the crucifix bit
at the beginning of this
film. So why are you repeating it now and hoping that we won't notice it? So there's kind of, I don't know who's to blame. Blame isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. Who we hold responsible for the things that I don't like about the film. There's much to enjoy. We'll come on to more of those later on, but there's a lot in this I find difficult.
Yeah. And
I'm not sure who I want to hold responsible for that. I assume it's probably a team effort, to be honest, that Sangster, maybe heart wasn't quite in it. He just, The Nanny had just been out, which was the high point of his psychological thrillers. He was probably thinking, well, that's what I want to be doing, really. I want to be making psychological thrillers with Hollywood royalty. I don't want to be stamping around, the studio backlot with Christopher Lee and vampires and fangs and all the rest of it, because I've done that. Been there, done that, want to move on. In fact, I kind of get the impression, because he didn't make another one of those for a while, that he was fed up with the psychological horror films at this point. He was a very mercurial man. I think if he wasn't being stimulated by what he was doing, he moved on.
Yes, and also that you have made a good point there, Kevin, that he strikes me, and I'm by no means an expert in the way, that sort of you or someone like Marcus Hearn is in terms of Jimmy Sangster's career, but it strikes me from what I'm sort of observing as we sort of go through these periods of his writing, that he gets the film that he feels is the height of that particular style, that particular subgenre. And then he's like, right, well, I've nailed that. So what's next? Yeah.
Where do I go from here? Yeah. Basically, how can I top Bride of Dracula and The Nanny?
Yeah, exactly.
And, you can't really, can you? So, you can understand why he was, I mean, okay, they were paying him to do it and he could have said no. He could have, I don't think he was quite ready to go to Hollywood just yet, but he was about to, by the end of the decade, he'd be in Hollywood. So he could have said no and just gone off and done his own thing. But I don't know, maybe part of him thought, I could write this film and that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of the Gothics. Nobody will want one after this because, this is Dracula's come back. What else can I possibly do now?
Yeah.
And, maybe he just did it that way and just used the name John Sansom so he didn't appear to be a hypocrite or something.
Right. Yeah. All right, but there are, as we say, plenty of positives. So let's talk about some of these characters, because as we do so, we'll be able to touch on some of those really lovely moments that do come out of Jimmy Sangster's script and Terence Fisher's direction. So as you've already said, we've got the Kents, right? So these are the four travellers. We've got
that's right.
Alan and Helen, played by Charles Tingwell and Barbara Shelley. They're married. And then Alan's younger brother is Charles, played by Francis Matthews, and his wife is Diana, played by Susan Farmer. And we first meet them in a classic Hammer Gothic tavern or inn in the Carpathians. And as you say, Charles, you get this lovely sort of character intro where it's a beautiful shorthand for him being a bit sort of bit of a lad, bit adventurous, you know, a man of the people kind of thing.
He's a lad on the night out, sort of schmoozing with the locals, basically, isn't he? And sort of, you know, trying to suck up to the locals a little bit by
exactly that, sort of ingratiate himself slightly. So he's chugging and failing, I must say, a yard of ale, and then, you know, this huge cheer goes up, and he says, "Oh, drinks for everyone!" Blah 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 blah. Helen, this is where we find out that Helen maybe isn't entirely into his style of doing things, because she's like, "Oh, for goodness sake, you know, he's spending yet more money, blah, 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 blah."
Yeah.
And Diana says, "Well, that's okay, you know, it's only, it's pence, like, we can afford it." And Helen's like, "Well, that's not the point." And so you get this sort of dynamic of the two brothers and then their wives, one of whom is a bit more sort of young and spirited and happy-go-lucky, and poor old Helen, who is obviously on this trip slightly against her will.
Barbara Shelley does a wonderful look in that scene where she kind of just glances over at Charles, and you can actually hear the words forming in the air in front of you. "I can't take you anywhere, can I?" You know what I mean? It's that kind of like, you know, I don't have to explain this to a woman, but when blokes are on a night out, we are arseholes, basically, and women put up with us. For the most part, they put up with us, and because we are bloody idiots, we're sort of, you know, get two drinks down us, or well, hey, we're dancing and doing all sorts of nonsense, you know.
To be completely frank, I would give any bloke a run for his money in terms of being a nuisance on a night out on the beers. So I will hold up my hands. I'm not going to comment. I'm saying nothing. I'm saying nothing. I value what life I have left in me. I'm saying nothing. But yeah, I think, you know, he is being, like you say, the lad. Yeah. He's a lad, sort of, you know, "Hey, I'm having a great time. This is good. This is good." And she really doesn't like it one bit, does she? She's just so disapproving. He's definitely got like younger brother energy. And she's very much got kind of wife of older brother energy.
That's right.
She's like, "Oh God, why do we have to hang out with him? Like, haven't we got any grown-up friends, you know?
Can't we just stay at home and have a cup of tea?" You know, so we don't have to be traipsing around Europe getting hammered at every stop we make, you know. Then, in retrospect, of course, if that's what she was thinking, she was right.
Well, that's a good point.
She was right, if that was indeed what she was thinking.
Oh, there are multiple points in this film where I was almost exclaiming out loud, "Will somebody please listen to this woman, for God's sake?" You know, her... Like, you know, you sort of talk about like, "Oh, I can feel it in my waters." Like, her kind of instincts are so spot on that by the time it all starts going to shit for these people, I'm like, do you know what? If you lot had listened to Helen in the first place, Alan wouldn't have had
none of this would have happened.
Alan wouldn't have had his throat slit. You know, poor old Diana wouldn't be sort of bitten on the wrist and enthralled to Dracula. Charles wouldn't be having to race horses all over the countryside trying to save her.
Although, in fairness, I think he probably enjoyed that bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
what we know of Charles, I think he probably thought, "Well, hey, you know, chance to have a bit of a horse race, an adventure, And, you know, so Francis Matthews does that so well, doesn't he? He brings across that sort of joie de vivre.
He is so good.
He's very good. He's got that kind of free-spiritedness.
Definitely.
That he brings out of Charles. And I think and like I said, although I regret the fact that it takes 45 minutes to get to Dracula, but I kind of like being in their company. Even grumpy old Helen.
Same.
I like being in her company. You know, they're good company to be with.
They're nice, kind of individually. You know, they've got, you know, they've each got something. Like Alan is a dick. Like, let's not beat about the bush.
Oh, yeah.
He's so dismissive to Helen specifically, but just in general, like I'm not enjoying Alan's vibe at all. But Charles is really good fun. As you say, he's got that kind of joie de vivre, this real kind of confidence that is almost edging up to arrogance, but doesn't quite tip over for me. Like it's just
cockiness, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's cocky. He knows he can get away with some of these things, even if Helen is tutting. He knows I can push this a bit further, and he's just going to have fun doing it.
There's the bit when they've been left behind on the road by their coachman, and they have to figure out what they're going to do. And then, I loved this. So this coach arrives, horse-drawn carriage, no driver, which is creepy.
It is.
And Charles is like, oh, what luck, you know, maybe we can take this.
Yeah.
And Helen is like, should we, though? Because, you know, we don't know who it belongs to, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'll get control of the horses. And so they get all the luggage onto the carriage. He takes the reins. And then there's this amazing bit where he can't control them. And he says, they're taking the wrong road.
That's right, yeah.
And it's that sort of confidence of like, I don't know, him almost like blaming the horses.
That's right, yeah.
Without knowing that they probably are under some sort of, you know, mystical, supernatural situation to do with the vampire. But he, like I say, he's so confident and almost arrogant, but not quite. And so he remains charming for me.
That's right. He's charming. That's the word for him. He's charming.
Yeah, I think so.
And he comes through towards the end when the chips are down and he finally realises what's going on. Mm-hmm. He does step up and do quite a good job of saving Diane, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Diana, Susan Farmer, she doesn't have a huge amount to do. I would say that I think her character is slightly underwritten. All she does is either agree or disagree with something that somebody else has said.
She basically stands around looking gorgeous, and Suzanne Farmer was just made for that. It takes something
absolutely gorgeous
to sort of go up against Barbara Shelley in the gorgeousness stakes and still turn my head. You know, I still think, oh, hello, it's Suzanne Farmer. Yeah. She's rather pretty as well, isn't she?
They're both lovely.
They are.
She's got superb hair as well, Diana.
Yeah.
The hair and makeup department have done a marvellous job on her. This incredible sort of elaborate updo she's got. It's really good.
I must admit, I spent a very long time with the notes last night trying to come up with the Charles and Diana joke, but I couldn't think of one that wasn't going to be, you know, so completely tasteless and get me locked up in the tower. But but yeah, I mean, she to be fair to Suzanne Farmer, she does get one really good scene, I think. There's a sort of very erotic scene where she almost drinks Dracula's blood. Where Dracula has enthralled her and he sort of cuts his chest.
Kevin.
And that is an incredibly good scene, I have to say.
It's hot.
And a beautiful bit of physical acting by Lee when he walks in and gets her to remove the cross that she's wearing. Oh, my God. Simply by pointing at it. And sort of like, almost like flicking it aside almost from a distance.
Yep.
To remove it. And he doesn't have to say anything. She knows she's under his control. And then that sort of really he opens he bares his chest and sort of cuts himself. So there's blood. And he's luring her over to drink the blood. And then she'll become a full-blown vampire. But watch the film to find out what happens next.
Come back next week.
Come back next week.
That was definitely going to be one of my favourite moments from the film.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have checked ahead.
Don't be silly. Don't be silly. It is sexy. Like,
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Everybody knows by now how I feel about Christopher Lee.
Oh, as soon as he opened his shirt, I kind of heard you faint, to be honest. In my imagination, oh, Christopher.
Thud. Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. Susan Farmer absolutely holds her own in that scene.
Yeah. Yes, she does. It's her best moment.
It is, for sure. And going back to what we were saying earlier about Christopher Lee's sort of non-dialogue Dracula, that is actually, I would say, the moment in the film where that really comes into its own.
Yes, it does.
Because if he'd said something like, remove your cross.
Yeah.
It would have had zero impact at all. But you're so right. The way the camera lingers on both of their very wide eyes to let you know that he's kind of bringing her in under his thrall. And then just almost imperceptible look and movement of his hand. Yeah. And you know what he's sort of ordering her to do. She knows, she removes it, she sort of casts it aside. I was like, yes, this is working.
That's the power of the man, that he doesn't have to tell her to do that. He has other powers over her.
Right, exactly.
He doesn't need words, you know. And there's a lovely little bit when she has removed the cross where Christopher Lee just gives the smallest smile, the tiniest little self-satisfied smile. Got you. I did it. See,
exactly,
made you look, you know, so made you remove it. So, yeah.
Well, and also I wonder if there's a little bit of Dracula who, having literally just been brought back from a pile of ashes, I get the feeling he's almost sort of testing his powers out, you know? Like,
yes.
Have I, you know, do I need to warm up, or have I still got all my powers? And he sees it in real time, kind of that they're still effective. And there's almost a little sort of note of few, not like overtly. Maybe not few, maybe more just like satisfaction, right? Satisfaction that he's still got them.
More like, oh, good, it still works. I've still got it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're quite right. Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. Can I just very quickly go back to Francis Matthews?
Please.
And just to ask, did you notice that he's not playing Charles in one of the scenes?
What?
This is when I put my anorak on. This is the bit you all love.
Oh, my God.
This is what you've turned up for, isn't it? This is what they want. When he's about to shoot Clove is sitting on the carriage.
Yes.
It cuts away to a shot from behind Charles and Shandor, except that's not Francis Matthews playing Charles. I'm not sure who it is, but I think it might be a stuntman. But have a look at it again. Go and watch that one scene. That is not Francis Matthews in any way, shape or form. And I don't quite know how they thought they were going to get away with that, because it's quite it's not a long shot, but it lingers a little bit. And it's quite obviously not him.
How funny.
So I don't know. Isn't that very weird?
Okay,
very weird.
I'm gonna.
But anyway, I digress. There you go. Anorak off. We'll go back to the serious.
No, that's
stuff.
brilliant. I'm gonna fire up my DVD again as soon as we hit stop on this recording. I need to check this out for myself.
You'll notice it immediately. I will get an email or a WhatsApp message later to say, "Bloody hell, Kev, you're right."
I love that. I am always such a fan when you see terrible stunt stand-ins. My favourite of all time, thanks for asking, is in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
And there's this incredible moment where Xander Harris is having a fight with the dinner lady because she's poisoned all of the Jello in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
And he is having this sort of punch up with her. The dinner lady in the show is a very sort of large matronly figure. You know what I mean when I say the word matronly.
I do, yeah.
See our sister podcast, Carry On Up, for more context on that. And then there's this bit where Buffy comes in and kicks the dinner lady up against the kind of hatch where she does the food, and it is literally just a tall, thin guy.
Yeah.
He looks like He looks like flipping Norman Bates, like dressed up in his mum's dress and wig. It is the funniest thing that you will ever see in your life, and I love it so much. So I'm very much looking forward to checking this one out.
Well, just to digress 1 second then, if we're going to do that, I've been recently reviewing the James Bond films, and towards the end of the Roger Moore era, I was always fascinated by how James Bond suddenly became 20 years younger with one cut, one edit. Because basically, knackered old Roger Moore was in one scene, then he was doing a stunt, and the stunt man was in his 20s when Roger Moore was in his, what was he, 50-something when he finished? So, yeah, it's I love moments like that. They do stand out. I
They're
find them
so
quite
fun. They're so
quite
fun.
entertaining.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, meanwhile, back at the plot.
Exactly, yeah. So one character that we haven't really talked about yet, although you did mention the brilliant Andrew Keir, is Father Sandor or Shandor? Sandor.
Shandor. He spells Sandor, but he seems to be being pronounced Shandor.
Because we're in the Carpathians, I would assume.
Because we're in the Carpathians.
So,
and I should tell you that I've trailed my love for Quatermass and the Pit coming up soon. We're going to see Andrew Keir and Barbara Shelley reunited in that for an absolute tour de force of acting brilliance.
Oh my God, lovely.
So prepare yourself for that one.
Lovely. Father Shandor he's kind of the voice of reason almost amongst these kind of superstitious Carpathian villagers.
Yeah.
Because they're all still, in the inn, they've got their garlic flowers, strung up everywhere.
He stops, doesn't he? He stops the villagers from burying a young woman who's been found dead and not trying to sort of stake her or anything. So, he's been gone 10 years. You can stop this now, which is interesting. I think a very clever bit of writing by Sangster that we've got the man of God being the voice of reason.
Absolutely. And it's a little bit of a red herring, that moment as well, because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, all right, Shandor, back off. You're going to tell these people not to stake her and to give her a proper Christian burial. And I tell you what's going to happen. She's going to come back and she's going to bite a load of people. And now they're all going to be vampires and it's going to be all your fault. And then, of course, you realise, no, he's actually done completely the right thing.
Yeah.
Because there's no way at this point that she could be a vampire. And I was like, right, fair play, I'll shut up.
Exactly, yeah. And a very, very clever bit of rug pulling by Sangster, I think.
Yeah, it really sets up. I think it uses that trope, which really by now has already been established, of, you see an opening scene with a funeral procession.
Yeah.
And then they get buried. We saw it in Kiss of the Vampire.
That's right. Yeah.
They get buried and, the poor vampire daughter in that one had a shovel through her heart or something so she could get out of her grave.
Yeah.
And it's just, it immediately makes you think, this girl's going to be a vampire.
Yeah.
And sort of sets you up with this character trait of Father Shandor. And then it turns out that it's not at all what you expect. And I love
It's very clever. Very clever. He is, let's face it, he is Van Helsing.
Essentially,
a monk's habit. Yeah, he's playing the same function within the story. But that's okay, because I think there's enough differences between the two characters.
Well, absolutely. Van Helsing turns up and he's sort of, he's following his colleague. He already is kind of aware, I think, that, Dracula is sort of on the rampage, and he turns up very much like with a mission, doesn't he?
That's right.
Whereas Shandor, I think, is somebody who has got that kind of esoteric knowledge and understands that vampires absolutely were once a thing, but is very much firmly in the belief that since Dracula was killed, that we don't need to worry about it anymore. And let's stop being superstitious and bring ourselves up to date. And
Indeed.
To a certain extent, he is right, but then he has to step back into that kind of more Van Helsing role towards the end, when he basically realizes that he's the only person who knows what to do.
That's
and
right.
has the kind of the resources and the knowledge to save these people.
Indeed, yeah. Yeah, I think he proved to be a very popular character. Just last week, if you remember in the mailbag episode, someone asked a question about having like a sort of Avengers style, if we're going to do an Avengers style crossover with the Hammer characters. And I said, wouldn't it be great if Father Shandor met Van Helsing? They teamed up to fight, armies of vampires. And we never saw that. But what we did see was the continuing adventures of Father Shandor. There was, again, you mentioned this last week, the comic/magazine House of Hammer. Mm-hmm. They had a backup strip in several issues, which were sort of Father Shandor's Terror Tales or something along those lines, where he didn't feature in them, but he was kind of the host of this horror story. And they appeared in House of Hammer, and then eventually they went on to another magazine, comic magazine called Warrior, which was this comic anthology magazine, which was the original home of the V for Vendetta strip.
No way.
Oh, yeah. And there it was V for Vendetta with Father Shandor, sitting alongside, as it were, in his own strip. But he was so popular. People, loved the character. I wish they brought him back.
Yeah.
I would love to have seen him come back.
I would have loved to have seen him again.
We'll see.
Really
I think
fun.
In the next Dracula film, I think it is, there is a priest in there, which we could have had rewritten as Shandor. And I think it would have worked really well. But we'll talk about that when we get to that particular film. But I think, Andrew Keir is brilliant. The character is fantastic. I think, again, it's a highlight.
I agree.
And that scene where he's killing Helen is just absolutely extraordinary. Like I say, we're going to see those two acting their socks off opposite each other in Quatermass of the Pit, and you are in for such a treat, I can assure you.
Yeah. And it's interesting what you say about him being this kind of religious figure as well, because he's not only the voice of reason, but he's coded as being like much more kind of laid back and a bit more modern. So even though he's, in this abbey full of monks, and he wears his habit and that, he's out hunting with a rifle, which some of the others of disapprove of. But saying that, later on, he says that he won't kill Clove because he's a human, and there are certain things that his religion still won't allow him to do. But when he first meets the Kents in the inn, he's kind of joking around. I think he has a drink at one point, and he's talking about the pleasures of life, and and it's actually really refreshing to kind of see a man, not only a man of religion, but certainly a monk in this kind of story, who's actually like, I'd go for a pint with him,
Absolutely. That's thanks to sidestepping the stereotype.
Yeah.
Rather brilliantly, I think. He is a very affable guy. Yeah, like you say, I'd go down the inn with him. Yeah. I'd be all right with that, So, leave the religion at the door, Father, but let's go and have a pint, and we'll set the world to rights anyway, and it'll be great. It'll be lovely. No, I like him. I like him a great deal, Father Shandor. Wish we'd seen more of him.
Me too.
I really do.
Up at the castle, we've got Philip Latham as Clove, and he is one of two kind of familiars in this film. We get a bit of dialogue from Shandor talking about how vampires often have these humans, and he says something like, I don't really know why, but they
that's right,
they're sort of there to do things that vampires can't do, sort of during the day and that kind of thing, helping to bring people up to the castle as a little buffet snack.
Did you notice though that this Dracula seems to be able to walk about in a certain amount of daylight?
I did. He definitely goes out at sort of twilight or something.
Yeah, or very bad day for night photography. Well, I'm not sure what it was meant to be, but it's he does seem to be strolling about in something approaching daylight. So maybe he doesn't need familiars, but he just likes having people to push around, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Clove is this very sort of classic creepy old butler. He's very pale. It looks like they might have kind of lightened his hair, lightened his skin a little bit to make him look especially kind of, gothic and creepy. But again, it's a brilliant performance. I think Philip Latham is genuinely menacing at points in this film.
He's really good. I mean, we have to overlook the question of where the hell was he during the first film? Was he on his holidays or something? Because Dracula's been dead 10 years, so he couldn't have hired him. He must have hired him 10 years ago.
Such a good point.
Was he having a day off or something? I don't know. But anyway, we can overlook that. We can overlook that because he gets a fantastic entrance that first time we see him, when he just walks out of the darkness into the room.
Honestly.
Which inspires...
I thought it was going to be Dracula, and then it wasn't.
I think that was the whole point. We're kind of thinking, well, he's called Dracula, Prince of Darkness. This must be him. And everybody panics. All the Kents go into an absolute frenzy of panic at this point. And then it just turns out to be the butler. But he's actually a very funny character. He's got a great line of dialogue with Charles, where they're talking about his master. That basically... he's going to sort of give them food and somewhere to stay for the night, because that's what his master would have wanted, for the house to always be open for guests. We know why, of course, but it's got this great moment where he sort of say, will your master be joining us? And Clove says, no, he won't. And Charles says, is he indisposed? And Clove just deadpans, he's dead. Which really makes me laugh every time. Just the way Philip Latham says it. He's dead. Just so matter of fact.
It's so good.
Clever.
It's beautifully delivered. And then it's followed up by one of my favourite lines in the entire film from Charles, who says... I'm sorry if we appear a little dense, but perhaps you could explain...
Yeah.
It's a really, really fun exchange. And, you know, as we were saying earlier, it's those moments that you do see Jimmy Sangster kind of shining through, you know? That
particularly is lovely, that line you quoted, because it's Charles's charm versus Clove's lurch-like character.
Exactly.
You know, I kind of imagine that he's a sort of the transatlantic cousin of the Addams Family's Lurch. He kind of moves the same sort of way, you know, a bit sort of... He seems dead himself, doesn't he, a lot of the time in this.
Definitely, yeah.
But of course, he gets also one of the greatest scenes in the whole film, doesn't he? We'll discuss that later, the resurrection scene. So,
oh, my God, it's so good. Yes, we'll come on to that. And then the other... familiar in the film, and I know that we've already talked about a bunch of really great characters, but he literally might be my favourite. We get Thorley Walters as Ludwig.
Yeah, of course he's your favourite. He's Thorley Walters, for God's sake.
He is so funny.
Yeah.
But like in this really kind of like unsettling way.
Yeah.
So Ludwig is a kind of resident at the monastery. So he's sort of in Father Shandor's care. And I think we get a little sort of glimpse into the backstory. Essentially, Father Shandor, or one of the monks, found Ludwig kind of outside Dracula's castle. He was, I don't know, unconscious. And then, you know, he's lost his memory. He doesn't know who he is. And so they sort of bring him to the monastery, and he lives there now.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely bonkers, this bloke.
There's a lovely little hint, isn't there, where Father Shandor tells Charles. Charles says, why is he locked up? And he said, because he could erupt at any moment. Yes. Which I think is lovely, isn't he? He doesn't oversell that, but there's clearly something going on with Ludwig.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, also he does the absolutely classic Renfield thing where he's eating flies and stuff.
That's right, yeah.
But they keep him around because he's this kind of master craftsman.
Yeah.
So when Shandor brings Charles in to introduce him to Ludwig, he's like, oh, you must come and meet Ludwig, you know, this sort of character that we have around the place. He brings him in, and Ludwig has just finished, I don't know, he's like rebound a book, or he's sort of
bookbinding, yeah. Yeah.
He's put this lovely sort of decoration on the front of it and stuff. And he's very proud. And he says, he says something like, is it exquisite or simply magnificent?
Yes.
And Shandor says,
I love that.
Shandor says, oh, yeah, it's exquisite, Ludwig. Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
And then Ludwig says, okay, well, I'll call for you when I need you again.
That's right.
It's so good.
He's very good. He's very good. I do love him. I do love Ludwig. It's again another. See, look, I don't hate this film after all, do I? You see, I just, you know, there's a lot to love about this film, and Thorley Walters is one of them. But again, in fairness, Thorley Walters is quite often the person to love in every film that he's in. But, you know, that's not to take away from his performance in this one. He's so good.
Now, you've said that, Kev, like I should know who Thorley Walters is. Should I know who Thorley Walters is?
Well, you should know Thorley Walters. We've seen him several times already.
Oh, my God, have we?
Well,
who's Thorley Walters? I can't keep up.
Or you would have seen him in a lot of other British film and television. He's a very familiar face to anybody who was... Basically, if you're like me, you were spending an awful lot of time in your childhood and your teenage years watching old British films on television. He turns up in them all. He's in, let me have a look. Okay, I've just pulled up his filmography. Oh my God, it's epic. Okay, where do we start? Blue Murder at St. Trinian's. Carlton Brown of the FO, Don't Panic Chaps, Two-Way Stretch, this could go on for a while, Suspect, The Pure Hell of St. Trinian's, Sherlock Holmes of the Deadly Necklace. He was in The Phantom of the Opera. He was in another film for Terence Fisher, which he didn't make, a Hammer, called The Earth Dies Screaming, about an alien invasion. He's here. We're going to see him again in Frankenstein Created Woman. We're going to see him in Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. He's also...
Oh, I've seen that.
There you go. See, he's in that. He's in the Amicus film, The Psychopath. He's in Twisted Nerve. He's in, my God, the amount of good stuff he's in. The Man Who Haunted Himself. Trog. Okay, not everything was good. Vampire Circus. He'll be back in Vampire Circus. So, you know, he's one of those guys that once you've spotted him, I guarantee now that you can't go on to Talking Pictures TV, which is for American and other overseas listeners, it's a TV station over here which specialises in showing old stuff. Old film and TV. Go on there, and I bet you Thorley Walters turns up at least once a day in something. You know, he was just so ubiquitous. He's just amazing. I absolutely adore the guy. He's one of those guys, a bit like Michael Ripper, that when he turns up, you just think, yep, all's well with the world.
Fine, I'm safe. We're good.
Yeah, we're good now because here comes Thorley. It's great.
Well, I can tell you what, now whenever I spot him in anything, I'm going to be like, oh, it's Ludwig, because...
It's Ludwig. Yeah, exactly.
I loved him. He's great. He's really good fun.
He's always going to be Ludwig to you, isn't he?
He is. That's it now, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I mentioned there about Ludwig eating the flies in that kind of very sort of Renfield way that we vampire and Dracula and Nosferatu fans have come to know and love.
Yeah.
And there are a few sort of classic tropes showing up in Dracula Prince of Darkness. We've got the flies, we've got kind of, coachmen refusing to take travellers the whole way. And it's interesting what you said earlier about there sort of being this slightly repetitive nature of Jimmy Sangster's screenplay for this one. But I tell you what is a lot of fun, and that is all the blood. So please, can we talk about the resurrection scene?
Oh, my good God. Yeah, we're take it as read that this is going to be one of my key moments in the film, but bloody hell, is it good? Is it good?
It's so good.
Clove captures Alan, strings him up upside down over Dracula's coffin, his sarcophagus, puts Dracula's ashes, presumably he'd come back from his holiday and swept up the library room there where he got killed in the first film. And he'd been keeping them all these years, and he put it in the sarcophagus, and then he cuts Alan's... He doesn't cut his throat, does he? I think he guts him, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, I thought he cut his throat.
Maybe he does.
Then, after you cut back to the sarcophagus about 4 times and the blood is still pouring out of him, I'm thinking, but maybe he did go a bit more overboard because Jesus Christ.
Because there's a lot of blood. I mean, there's probably more blood than Alan actually had, if we're being honest, but who cares? It works. It's a magnificent sequence. And it's this sort of torrent of blood. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It sounds like a really bad 70s sort of Z movie, doesn't it? A torrent of blood. But, which, of course,
Gordon Lewis presents.
Which, of course, I would go watch right now because that's the kind of guy I am. Torrents of blood. Oh, yeah, must watch that one tonight. Let's not worry about Oscar winners. Torrents of blood. Need to see that. But there is this torrent of blood into the sarcophagus, and it's a terrific scene because we see like this smoke starts to billow into the sarcophagus. And then we cut to a side shot of it, and this hand comes out. And it's like Dracula has reconstituted himself.
Well, this is it. I mean, the smoke really comes in, I think, at the point that the kind of special effects would need to snap over into it actually being Christopher Lee, which maybe they didn't quite have the budget or the technology for. But up until that point, the kind of reconstitution of Dracula is fucking brilliant. Like,
it's amazing.
The way that, obviously, because, we saw in Dracula 1958 and also at the beginning of this one, where he's kind of crumbling to pieces. And this is almost the same thing, but in reverse. And they're building up the layers very slowly and very deftly. And I was watching it thinking, Christ alive, like whoever's done the effects on this has absolutely crushed it. And then you're right, the smoke then sort of envelops the whole thing, and then you cut, and then the hand comes over, and I was like, oh shit.
Oh, yeah, and it's so clever because it's so economical, that just having the hand as the first image. And it's really, really clever. And I think, thinking about it, people correct me if I'm wrong here, I think this is the first time we've seen a vampire being reconstituted on screen. Prior to this, I think it was the accepted fact that when a vampire died, they died. They were destroyed, and that was it. There was no way back for them. Certainly in the Universal series, they stake Dracula off camera, of course, and he's gone. Bela Lugosi's gone. We don't see him again until Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, is it? Terrible film anyway, but...
Kevin, would you stop slagging off Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein?
I can't stand it. I'm so sorry. See, if I'm just about sort of winning them back here, I think, with my sort of praising of Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and now they've just, hang on a minute, put the Wicker Man back up. He doesn't like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
I love that film.
A lot of people do, and again, I just don't like Abbott and Costello. They just annoy me. But anyway, that Dracula, I don't think he's meant to be the same Dracula as we see in 1931. It's a different character, really, just played by the same actor.
Well, I mean, it's almost a sort of different... a different reality, different timeline, different universe, isn't it?
Exactly. So we never see Bela Lugosi being reconstituted. In fact, we see his body being burned in Dracula's Daughter.
Oh.
So he's gone for good. And every other vampire film after that, I think, were kind of one-offs.
Yeah, you just sort of get a new one each time.
That's right, yeah. And so I think I'm right in saying this is the first time we see a vampire being reconstituted on screen.
Well, I tell you what, they really do it well. I mean,
they do it so well.
I know that it's an extremly different film and very differently sort of... what's the word? Executed, for want of a better word. But it had shades of Hellraiser. Of Uncle Frank coming back in the attic,
That's right.
Like not really in terms of kind of the gore and the effects and stuff, but it just brought that to mind for me, the way that he's kind of built back up,
Yeah. I think, to be honest, if they could afford to do it, they would have done that. They would have made it look like Hellraiser. The censors be damned. The censors were never going to love this anyway. They were always going to complain about it. There was one of their examiners at the BBFC, a guy called Frank Crofts, read the script and dismissed it as a silly piece of cack. And I mention that simply because we don't hear the word cack quite enough these days, and I think we should bring it back. So from now on, we should refer to things we don't like as being cack.
Being absolute cack.
Being absolute cack. We'll save that one for 1970. Marvellous, marvellous. But yeah, I think they would have done it. I think they would have made a very gory resurrection because, my God, there's enough blood elsewhere in this film.
My word. They've honestly,
really gone for it.
I was rubbing my hands together. And also, a quick... shout out to Charles Tingwell, who dangles over that sarcophagus upside down for what feels like a solid 5 minutes.
Yeah, fair play to the man. I mean, the character is not very nice, but he's hanging there, and that's definitely him, isn't it? You see his face.
Well, it definitely is, because he's literally like dangling from essentially a winch on the ceiling. He keeps sort of spinning slowly round. Yeah, so fair play to the man. That can't have been a comfortable day's work. No, really, yeah. So credit where credit's due.
Credit where credit's due, but what a sequence in total. And, okay, we don't like Alan. very much because he's a bit of a dick. But bloody hell, what a way to exit a film.
Oof.
You know, what a way to step out of the story. That's incredible, isn't it?
And then, Kev, when Charles finds him...
Yeah.
And he's basically been, like, unceremoniously stuffed into a sort of travel chest.
A trunk.
Trunk.
Yeah.
And Charles comes down. This is during that slightly pointless bit when Diana's back down at the cabin. And Charles is sort of searching the castle, and he comes down to the basement and sees this trunk with literally just like an arm sticking out of it, which I thought was quite a nice sort of visual mirroring to Dracula's hand coming out of the sarcophagus, actually.
Yes, good point, yes.
And then he opens the lid, and obviously we don't see what he sees, but we saw enough of what happened to Alan earlier. He was initially stabbed in the back, then he either had his throat slit or he was like gutted from groin to sternum, you know?
Yeah.
And he opens the lid and just sees his older brother there in God knows what state. And his reaction is so good. It's both horrifying and pretty heartbreaking, actually.
It is. I think the fact that the travel trunk is quite clearly a lot smaller than Alan when Alan is standing up suggests that something really nasty has happened to his body parts.
100%.
That's why they never show it to us, I think, because our imagination fills in that gap.
Exactly. And I found it truly horrifying. I thought it was
horrible,
an amazing
isn't it?
moment for a horror film. Yeah. Really good. After this grisly discovery, Charles and Diana manage to escape, and they get down to the monastery. This is where you start, meeting the monks and Ludwig and that kind of thing. And Barbara Shelley's Helen has had her awakening.
Yes. Yep.
And is now proper Barbara Shelley, where she's, sort of lustful and starving hungry, and she's got this bloodthirst, and she's sort of gnashing her teeth at people. And you get this moment where Clove has popped them both in the back of a covered wagon in these very tightly very tightly secured coffins. And he comes down and he says to one of the monks, can I get a room, please? And the monk says, no, we can't do it tonight, but you can sort of hang around in the grounds or whatever.
Yep.
Now, we assume that Clove wanted to get inside so that he can then invite the vampires in.
That's right.
Luckily for the vampires, we don't need him to do that because Ludwig's in there.
That's right. Yeah.
So we get this lovely moment first where Helen knocks on the window of Diana, and she's saying, "Oh, Diana, everything's okay. I've gotten away from him. Please let me in. It's ever so cold out here." And Diana's like, I don't know about this, actually. But she does seem very much, back to normal Helen. And so she opens the window, and Helen gets in just enough to bite her on the wrist.
That's right. Yeah. And then there's quite a funny moment, makes me laugh anyway, where Dracula pulls her out of the window and sticks his head through the window with his bloodshot eyes, which I would think, I don't know why, it just makes me laugh, that moment.
Same!
He's sort of like, look, boo, through the window, here's Johnny.
It is a bit here's Johnny, it definitely is. And then Shandor comes in, and obviously he knows what to do. So he takes poor Diana's arm and basically presses it on the kind of top of like a gas lamp. Yeah. To sort of cauterize the wound. Which obviously we've seen before. Peter Cushing did something quite similar, didn't he? In Brides?
Brides, that's right. Yep.
So, Shandor's got the knowledge, he's got the skills, he knows what to do. So she's fine. And then this is when they get Helen into the room, and this is where we get this incredible sequence of between Barbara Shelley and Andrew Keir, and that staking of her, which is again full on.
It is. It's magnificent. It's the finest moment in the film by a very, very, very long way for me.
Yeah, and again, doesn't pull its punches at all. Like, the one thing I will say about this film in terms of the horror is it really does lean into it. So I can see. I mean, in some ways, it surprises me that all the censors said was that it was cack, because I would have thought that they would have been like, it's a blood bath, basically. Yeah,
you can't get away with all this nonsense, Mr. Hammer. Yes,
they just didn't like it.
They just didn't like it, which just seems really weird, doesn't it, considering that they were sort of fussy about other earlier films, which are far less gory than this.
Definitely, yeah. I guess, maybe the times they are a-changing.
Oh, most definitely they are, yes.
And then we get, the classic... And again, I suppose, coming back to your point earlier about Sangster's screenplay, I keep sort of saying, then we get the classic, It's it does feel tropey. So
it does.
Dracula manages to get Diana out. Clove puts them both in their own coffins and drives them off to the castle. And so Shandor and Charles take chase on the horses. I thought the whole horse chase, it's not a car chase, it's a horse chase.
It's a horse chase.
Was thrilling. I thought it was great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I love it. It's great. Very exciting.
Certain moments that I thought were quite obviously sped up by half a...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there are a couple of very obvious stuntmen on hand as well. But, we've discussed that.
And then they get up to the castle. You keep getting these shots inside the back of the covered wagon. Where one of them is... one of them's moving around a lot and the other one isn't moving around at all. And I suppose we're led to believe that Diana's is the one that's moving around a lot because maybe she's trying to get out.
Right. Good point. I hadn't thought of that. No.
Or it's Dracula's one that is moving around a lot because it hasn't been secured properly. Because what happens is when the carriage gets up to the castle, it doesn't have a driver by this point because they've seen off Clove further down the mountain. It kind of crashes.
Yeah.
And Dracula's coffin falls off the back of it and slides over the ice.
That's right,
over what I assume is the moat, the moat outside of the castle.
Well, there's a little bit of confusion there because Father Shandor says that flowing water will kill or drown a vampire.
Yes.
It wouldn't be flowing if it was in a moat.
Ah.
However, if you cast your mind back to Dracula, we did see a stream outside his castle.
I remember commenting on how beautiful it all was.
Yeah, and it's a bit bigger here, but 10 years have passed. Who knows? Maybe erosion works a lot faster than we thought it did, particularly in Hammer World. But I think it is possibly meant to be the stream that we saw in the first film rather than just the moat, because the moat would be still water.
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? But it has to be flowing for what happens next.
That's right.
Which is the most anticlimactic, disappointing Dracula death I think I have ever seen in a Dracula film.
I mean, fair play to them. They're trying something new. But yeah, they shoot the ice out from under him and he falls into the river.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. Yeah, I kind of get it. Maybe they were kind of thinking, that Peter Cushing chap had a good point in the first film about him sort of whipping out crucifixes and becoming a travelling crucifix salesman. So we came up with something different. Yeah, okay. Then we had Bride of Dracula where, we used the windmill, the shadow of the windmill.
Oh, my God. Oh, the windmill.
That was great, wasn't it? It was terrific. We need to try something different with this one. But, yeah, it is kind of... Could you just think Dracula... I know he's only just been resurrected, but... he's a strong guy. He's been around for a long time. He just stands there. He doesn't even try to run away.
He just stands there as they keep shooting the ice. They shoot it about 6 times, and he just stands there, and then, they've shot it enough times and now it's broken, and then he screams a lot as he goes into the water. It's like, firstly, we've been told that it's not like it disintegrates a vampire. They can drown in moving water. So what is he screaming at? And why didn't he just move while they were shooting the ice?
The thing I do like about it is that it's Diane who takes the first shot.
Oh, I know.
Because she doesn't take no for an answer when Shandor said no, it won't kill him. So she fires the first shot. She's not a very good shot and she misses him, but that's what gives Shandor the idea.
Exactly.
To shoot out the eye. So I do like that it's Diane who's like, I'll take the gun. Yeah, I'll do it. If you won't do it, I bloody will. So fair play. Go Diane. That's brilliant.
Definitely. No, yeah. That after the sort of interaction with Dracula. That's definitely Diana's.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Second best moment in the whole film, I think. Yeah, it's good to see her standing up for her bloke.
Yeah, but I know what you mean about it being underwhelming. It is a sort of slightly odd ending, isn't it?
And again, I know that I keep making this point, but maybe it wouldn't have felt so underwhelming to me if you hadn't shown me the spectacular death of Dracula at the end of the first film.
That's right, yeah. I think had they had more money, they could have made it more spectacular, having him run down the ice. Mm-hmm. And they keep taking pot shots at him, and the ice sort of cracks and the crack chases him down the ice until it catches him. That might have been quite a good one. Although we do know from Kiss of the Vampire, I think, they turn into bats in that, do they? Or do they just have bats as familiars? Why didn't he just turn into a bat and fly away? You know, like, come on, Dracula, you've been so clever up to this point.
Well, they definitely do in Brides of Dracula, because I remember you making the point that I can't remember what the vampire's name is in that one, but
Baron Muncer. Baron Muncer. Yeah.
He has been, chained up with like a silver, ball and chain or something for years and years on end. You were like, why don't you just turn into a bat?
Bat and fly away. Yeah. So why didn't Dracula do it? But then we wouldn't have been able to end the film. I give them kudos for trying something different. I just don't think it works. The execution doesn't just quite work for me.
No, and it again, when you've seen one of the best ones right at the beginning of the film, and then you follow it up with this, it's like, well, never mind.
Okay, yeah, a bit of a step down, guys. Bit of a step down.
And that's it. Credits. So let's talk about some favourite moments, Kev, to round things off. I have already mentioned a couple of mine. Obviously, Alan's death and the resurrection of Dracula, chef's kiss. The line, I'm sorry if we appear a little dense, but perhaps you can explain. Beautiful.
I love that too.
There's also a really lovely exchange that we haven't mentioned yet between Diana and Charles. She's getting ready for bed. He comes into their bedroom at the castle and puts his hands over her eyes and says, "Guess who?" And she says, "Horace Peabody." Yeah. And he's like, no, it's me. Ha 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 ha. And then he goes, "Hang on a minute, who's Horace Peabody?"
Who's Horace?
And she says, he was my first love or something like that. It's a quick exchange, but it's very cute. These two, it just sets them up as this it's just very likeable couple, actually.
It's the sort of thing couples would do. It's the sort of thing that, a real life Diana would actually do just to wind Charles up a little bit. Just to sort of like, haha, made you jealous, didn't I? Eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's very playful. I do like it.
I do as well. And, it does that classic thing that you want horror to do when you need someone to root for. And I've got to admit, I'm rooting for these two. They're cute.
Of course.
But maybe my absolute favourite bit of the entire film is when Shandor first comes into the inn. Mm-hmm. And he says, he says to the Kents, "Excuse me, could I get close to the fire, please?" And then you are not expecting, and again, this is coming back to my point that Father Shandor is not your stereotypical monk, because what he does is he immediately hikes up the back of his robes and puts his bum basically straight up to the fire and warms his backside, and he says something like, thankfully my calling still allows me the pleasure of a warm posterior.
Yeah. And that is the very second we fall in love with Father Shandor.
Yeah.
That's the very second we think, oh, you're all right. I like you. You're all right.
So funny.
It is great, isn't it?
Really good. How about you, Kev? What are your faves?
We've spoken about most of the resurrection, Helen's death. Just to add to the scene of Helen at Diana's bedroom window, where she says, let me in, it's cold out here. Haven't read the book for decades now, but isn't that a bit Wuthering Heights?
Oh.
With the ghost of Kathy at the window?
Oh, again.
Am I remembering that right? Am I remembering that, or am I remembering the Kate Bush song? You know, it's cold, I've come home and all the rest of it. Oh, no, don't sing it, because I'm going to have to go and play it afterwards, and it'll be in my head for weeks afterwards.
You're welcome.
Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing.
And then you can put on Kate Bush's Hammer Horror directly after and have yourself a lovely afternoon.
Just a moment while I get my composure back. I've mentioned Kate Bush and Barbara Shelley one episode. I've got all funny now. But yeah, I think if I remember the book properly, she is at the window. So the ghost of Kathy is at the window saying, I'm so cold.
I'm sure you're right. I've got to admit, I haven't read the whole thing through. I bought the book after the recent Emerald Fennell film.
Right,
which
yeah.
I didn't think was particularly good, but did immediately make me want to go and actually go back to the source material. And
it doesn't even have the ghosts in it, does it? The recent one. No,
I've done my absolute classic thing of going straight to a bookshop and picking up a lovely Penguin copy. And I've got about 3 chapters into it and got distracted and put it back down again. So I don't know. Whenever I pick it back up and get to the ghosts, then I'll be able to confirm yay or nay.
One day I will actually take a photograph of the absolute shithole I live in, which is just full of books and records and DVDs and Blu-rays and magazines, 90% of which I've never read, listened to, watched. They're just here because one day I will get round to it.
Exactly. What happens if that moment happens when you desperately need it, Kev?
What happens if it sells out and it's then £200 to buy it? And no, I've got to have it. So I'm just surrounded. So I'm like you. I just got to have it. So I watched 633 Squadron, the war film, the other day. I bought a paperback copy of the original book. It's sitting here on my desk. I haven't opened it. It's been here a week and a half.
Exactly. So this is it.
I just keep looking at the picture on the cover. It's really nice. But anyway, back to the story. So the vampire at the window also maybe anticipating Salem's Lot a little bit.
That's what it made me think of, for sure.
So that's good. I've got a line of dialogue, which I like. You've pointed out a few, but Charles is talking to Shandor, and Shandor is reading off the ways they can kill Dracula. You know, we can stake him, we can expose him to daylight, we can drown him, all the rest of it. And Charles just deadpans, you make it sound comparatively simple. I think it's really lovely.
Really good.
Completely underestimates what he's up against, but really in a very sort of British, self-facing, very sort of deadpan way.
It's great. I really, really like Francis Matthews in this film. I think I think
he's terrific, isn't he? He's kind of overshadowed by the fact that you've got Christopher Lee, Andrew Keir, and Barbara Shelley in it. Yeah. Otherwise, he would be top of the list. One final thing. You talked about he doesn't disintegrate when he goes into the pond. Into the river. In fact, he doesn't. The very final shot of the film that comes up just as the end credits appear is a face under the water. And we can't quite make it out. Has it been eroded? Is it just sort of like deathly cold under that water and gone white? But it's a very spooky face just seen under the ice just at the last second.
That is such a good shout. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a really creepy shot.
So there you go, naysayers. I don't hate this bloody film at all. I don't rate it as highly as Dracula and Bride of Dracula, but I do like it, all right? So stop your bloody moaning.
Where will you rank it? Are we going elite, upper, middle or lower?
I'm going to say it's upper.
Oh!
Despite my reputation for hating it.
Well, there you go.
I'm going to say it's lower upper.
Yeah.
But I think, you can't have a Jimmy Sangster script, Terence Fisher direction, Andrew Keir, Barbara Shelley, Christopher Lee, Francis Matthews, all in one film, and it not be an upper class film. Mm-hmm. They all bring their A game. So it's got some shortcomings. For me, the chief shortcoming is that it's not as good as the first two films. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. That's all it is. There's a lot to love about this film.
Yeah, I agree. I would also go lower upper. I think there was part of me that was thinking upper middle.
Yeah.
Mainly, to be honest, for a couple of the key reasons that we've discussed, 45 minutes without Dracula.
Yeah.
But you are absolutely right that if you are going to spend 45 minutes without him, at least it's nice spending some time with the Kents.
Exactly, yes. And Helen's death scene alone, that's elite.
Yeah.
It's just everything else brings it back down a bit. And the resurrection scene, those two are elite moments in an upper tier film. Yeah. There you go.
And I think I probably would have gone upper middle if you'd asked me at the beginning of the chat, but as is often the way, Kev, we've had so much fun talking about this one, and like you were like, God, no, actually, I really do like this film. There is so much to like, so I'll join you in the lower upper echelon.
Well, thank God that's over. There's a load of rubbish. Oh, sorry, we're still on. Sorry. Oops.
Thanks for listening to Hammer Time. We'll be back next week with, oh my God, this is one of my faves. This is one of the ones, Kev, that I watched before it was my handful of Hammer films that I'd seen before we started doing this podcast, and it was at the top of my sort of half a dozen that I'd seen because I love this film so much and I cannot wait to revisit it.
I tell you what, let's have a week off. Plague of the Zombies, bloody brilliant. There you go. We'll see you in 2 weeks. You don't need to say anything else.
How dare you? I've been looking forward to talking about this one since we started this bloody podcast.
That's why I said it.
The Plague of the Zombies from 1966. You can find this on VOD if you're watching along, and it's, again, part of that classic Hammer Collection box set from Studio Canal. To check out the full list of movies we'll be covering throughout the podcast, head to evolutionofhorror.com/hammer. We'd love to hear from you, so please send us questions or comments for upcoming mailbag episodes. You can drop us an email to hammer@evolutionofhorror.com. You can follow the Evolution of Horror Network on Instagram at EOH_network and on BlueSky at Evolution of Horror. You can follow me on Instagram and BlueSky at Bunny Darke, and on Letterboxd, I'm Becky Darke. And Kev, where can people find you and your work online?
EOFF-TV is the key thing here. You can find me as that on BlueSky, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. But also my website is eofftv.com, or you can search for EOFF TV review, and you can go and find the review that got me into trouble about Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
Turn off your comments.
I'm just going to go to bed and stay there for a couple of weeks now. So
don't forget to rate and review us on your podcast app of choice. Thank you for listening. Join us again next week for another episode of Hammer Time.